Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
A couple of weeks ago after the service, a lady came up to me and she said, I'm just absolutely amazed at you, Duke. You don't have to look at the book with every hymn you sing. You seem to be looking out at the crowd and enjoying yourself. And how is it that you learned all of those hymns? And I didn't really explain it to her. I just said, well, thank you, and went about my way. But then it started weighing on my conscience. Because when I was in Lutheran Sunday school, I didn't like singing hymns. But we learned very quickly, and no matter what hymn it is, all you have to sing is watermelon, and that blends in with the tune. So that stays in this room, okay? What happens on Christmas morning stays here on Christmas morning. How many here were here last night? And did any of you remain in your seats and sleep there until this service? Seems like a fast turnaround. Well, it's a great time of the year, partially because so many people come back for the holidays. I get to see people that I haven't seen in a long time. Benjamin, it's great to see you. I don't know how many years it's been. Jerry, my heart goes out to you, and my prayers are with your family, and Kristen, of course. And you two, are you here from Costa Rica? Yeah, stand up. And they probably traveled the farthest to be with us this morning. We'll welcome them. I talked to my cousin Ozzy earlier this week. And for those of you who don't know him, he lives in Dundas, South Dakota. He's kind of the unpolished gem of the family. And he has a tendency to, let's say, celebrate with spirit in a non-church setting. And he said, I did something. I talked to him in the morning. He said, I did something last night and that I've never done before. He'd gone to Sioux Falls and celebrated with a bunch of his cronies in one of the taverns there. And he said, I took a bus home. And I said, God, that is incredible. That is a giant step forward. He said, it was quite a surprise because I'd never driven a bus before and I don't know where I got it. I'll go to Cousin Ozzy. Anyway, I want to thank you for being here. I'm going to call Heidi forward, and we're going to talk a little bit about Christmas this morning and what it's all about. It goes way beyond the historical legends and some of the myths and rituals. It has a deeper meaning, and we're going to kind of discuss that in a very relaxed setting this morning. There we go.
Thank you.
Heidi has a radio show. It's on every Monday or Tuesday?
Monday.
Every Monday at 2 o'clock?
3, but you're really tuning in, I can tell.
And she interviews people, and the name of the show is Let's Get Naked, and it's about authentic living. Like what's behind all the pretense and all the boundaries that we put up. What's deep in the heart? And it's just a fabulous show. I invite all of you to tune in whenever it is.
Yeah. Mondays at 3, and you can go on Unity, www.unity.fm, not com.fm, and there's spiritual conversation going on every day. And you can look in the archives for old programs. I've interviewed many people in this congregation, and it's very exciting. You're going to be up next soon. Well, Merry Christmas. The shopping is over. Isn't this great that we can just relax and be together? Mm-hmm. Because you know, Christmas is about this celebration of the Christ light within us. And what did Jesus teach us more than anything? It's not so much what we have as what we are. And that we get to practice, because unity is about practical Christianity. How do we practice this? And so Duke, I know we were in our 9 o'clock class, we were talking about what is the history of Christmas and what is it about, and how do we really use it as a way of life rather than something about just pulling all your red things out and your Santa Claus stuff. And how do we really make it about something that will not only be today, but go into our next year and the rest of our life? Mm-hmm. What do you think?
Well, Christmas Day is important for 2 reasons. And I'm going to go back to the one that preceded Jesus. The thing that separates human beings from the rest of the animal world is our power to reflect and to imagine. And they go together very beautifully. Every invention, every discovery has been the result of somebody reflecting on something, imagining what could be, and then moving in that direction. And so if we go back when the modern mind of the human being was being developed, and this reflection slowly came about, at that time, knowledge and experience was quite limited. And the people felt they were paganistic. They were nature was their spirit. And they recognized around this time of the year, around fall, that the sun was getting further and further away. The sun, their God, appeared to be leaving them. And as time went by, it became more and more distant. The daylight hours became less and less. In many of the seasonal changes, the vegetation of nature began to die. Cold set in. Postnasal drip attacked many people. And it was just a very difficult time to exist. But more so than all of that, there's this great fear that their God, the sun, was leaving them. So around December 21st, we know now as the solstice, the sun quits retreating and begins to come back. They didn't recognize it on that day, but 4 days later, they recognized something different was happening. The sun wasn't leaving, it was actually returning to them, so they stopped everything and they celebrated it. And they called it the Sun Day, major celebration in paganism. Well, then we move forward to Jesus, and nobody knew exactly when he was born. Some people think it was in the spring. But when the church was trying to bring the pagans into it, they decided to compromise, and they would have their Sun Day on the same day as Jesus, the Son of God, and make that a S-O-N day, and they would celebrate it together. Now, the thing I like about this is the fact that Jesus brought us a sense of hope, and he brought us a sense of faith, and brought us a sense of steadiness. And every single one of us in this room, there are times when it feels like God or our power or whatever it is has left us. And there's a dark shadow that's cast across our lives. Happiness seems to be fleeting. Everything around us seems to lose its glamour and its shine. And we just go into this tremendously dark and murky area where all hope is lost. And we've all experienced that. Sometimes it's an illness, sometimes it's a loss of a loved one, sometimes it's a financial setback, sometimes it is just this overwhelming fear about what is coming up in the future, the problems and the challenges we face. But everything becomes very dark and fear takes over. We begin to fear what might happen next. How will I get along? How will I survive this? Exactly the same way the pagans did when they thought the sun was leaving them. But just as they discovered it's a natural cycle, when Jesus came, he taught us the same thing. You're not stuck in this gloom and doom that has enshrouded you temporarily. You're not stuck in it. Don't give up your hope. Don't give up your trust. Don't give up your faith in your higher power to continue moving through this, and you'll most certainly return to the bright light of the day. And the way those two coincide, I think, is just beautiful. Because each and every one of us can always rise above, move beyond, overcome, or successfully manage anything that comes into our life with the attempt to deplenish our peace of mind and our sense of comfort.
And it's interesting because he did remind us that it's within us. And I think this time and this culture can all be about, what's outside of us that we can obtain to feel better, rather than, as he invited the fellow at Bethesda to pick up your mat and walk, or the lady that touched the garment of his robe. She said, I'm healed because I touched you. And he said, no, it's because of your faith you've been healed. It's because of what's within us. And that is what we're reminding ourselves at Unity, and of course in this kind of community, that we don't tell people how to live. We invite you to know that the answers are within you. So it's so different that we are listening to this Christ spirit, this intuitive knowing, the spirit of life that is, the beating of your heart. Mm-hmm. And so that's what authenticity is, really so much of the show, that when we're talking, that everyone's story is different, but we can relate to all of it. I know when you had everyone get up a few Sundays ago, every single story was different, but we could relate to all of them. So it's sort of like, how do we stay naked with our clothes on? Mm-hmm. How do we really just be real and authentic without the idea of someone's going to reject me or abandon me? And Jesus, I believe, was really inviting us into that, because as we are with him in this consciousness, it's really Jesus is the way shower and the brother and the teacher. So this idea of it really being connected with nature, as you said about the sun, mm-hmm. the solstice, and that We know that people that are the animals don't think about, am I okay? They just do what they do. And so we really are from the place, we are born in this idea of pure potentiality, you know, unlimited good. And that is what we get to remember today, and certainly in this kind of a community where we remind each other of that. So how is
this? Well, it's interesting when you talked about Jesus and the woman who touched his robe and said, "You have healed me." Throughout the Bible, he does miraculous healings, but he never actually does the healing. He instills upon the person a sense of knowing and a sense of confidence that they become healed. He will, like the man in Bethesda, he went up and wanted to be healed, and Jesus said, "Pick up your pallet and walk." He treated him as if he'd already been healed. And somebody else that had a disturbing mental illness, he said, "Clear your mind, for you can see straight." And the man moved beyond this mental malady that he'd had for years. So it's instilling the confidence and the knowing. When we come into this world as babies, you know, we don't have any sense of fear. We don't have a lack of self-confidence. We go through these tremendous changes. In the first 10 years, we're imploded with all sorts of sensory knowledge. But never once do we doubt ourselves as to whether I can do this or not. Never once do we look at ourselves and think, gosh, I just don't look as good as I should, or I am not learning how to walk as good as I should, or I can't pronounce words as good as I should. You know, we just did it. But then we move into the older years, especially the teen years, and we're taught to compare ourselves to other people and to even compete with other people for certain things. And every time there's competition, there's usually a winner and there's a loser. And if certain abilities aren't strong in that area, we walk away thinking we're a loser. We walk away thinking, gosh, so-and-so is so handsome or so pretty, I just don't look like I should. But those are all artificial standards that have been created for one purpose or another. Jesus would walk into the leper colonies where the people were very, very disfigured to the point of being horrific looking. And he'd sit down with them, and he didn't even see that. He didn't see that deformed person there. He saw them as a regular person, just looked right into their eyes, and they had this feeling of, I am okay. I am exactly the way I should be.
And of course, he was with prostitutes and people that would have not been the good people, because
prostitutes aren't good?
Well, in that culture, they were stoning them.
I think they go right in with your let's get naked story.
Well, you know, it's... You're getting a little twisted there, Duke. But
I owed you that one.
Yeah, that's right. Well, they stoned these people. You know, they weren't part of what was the upper crust of the community. And so when he would be with people, as when we're with people, when they're in pain and when they're crying, there's such a realness that goes on. And so I find that this walk of the spiritual path is not to avoid the times of pain and of confusion and of, you know, what is mine to do next, that we really embrace it and we allow others to support us. Because this really is where I think that it gets confusing on the spiritual path, is that, you know, it's supposed to all be easy or fun or, you know, one big party, when, you know, this day there's people in pain today. And does that mean something's wrong with your Christmas? You know, not at all. That we can be with people that can love us until we can love ourselves. And so I think his example of being with people that were lepers, or, you know, if all of our insecurity and illnesses or whatever were on our outside, we'd see that we all have a lot of insecurity and you know, things that we don't like about ourselves. But that you get to see that people really love you for the inside of you and not for the outside of you. And so.
Well, talking about the inside-outside, you know, when we have a physical ailment, whether we cut ourselves, we break a bone, or we have some sort of influenza, we do everything we can to immediately heal ourselves. And the body's equipped to do that, and sometimes we need medical assistance, or sometimes we need some sort of a prescription of sorts. But we heal the body because it doesn't feel good. But yet when we have our emotional ailments, we seem to live with them. And not only live with them, but put energy into them so that they can continue to persist. we get lost in our story, so to speak, about, oh, so-and-so did this to me, or, oh, poor me because of this. And we feed that ill feeling, that emotionally ill feeling, instead of recognizing I can rise above this, and I'm going to start healing myself immediately. And that might be by going to Unity, it might be by going to a support group of some sort, just doing something to take that first step back to wellness, because we all have that healing power within us. We don't have to live with anything that prevents us from living with a sense of peace of mind.
And we get to be part of the community of this planet, because that, to me, is what happens when we start feeling separate, is when we feel alone and we're in this lie. We're in the lie of lack, we're in the lie of separation. And again, in our 9 o'clock class, we were talking about how do you get out in the world and engage yourself in something that's meaningful for you. And that can be anything. It could be, you know, an activity. It could be scuba diving. It could be tithing your time in a place that is very valuable to you. A lady in our congregation got involved with Operation Breakthrough this Christmas and was there volunteering her time. And you get out of this sense of self, me versus you. It's me involved with you. And that really is the purse that never wears out, is Jesus, to which Jesus was referring, or you know, all of the ways that life becomes this eternal life rather than, you know, this day or this year or how old am I, and kind of all this finiteness. It is truly the flow. It is what prosperity is. And that's why he can invite us all the time. Don't worry about your life. You know, the flowers don't worry, and they're, you know, and they're splendid. And all of the places where we start worrying that there's not enough when we are the ever-flowing, overflowing cup. So Christmas really gets to be this time where we say, you know, what is my life about? And how am I engaged? And how alive do I feel in this Christ spirit that is always, always happening?
Very well put. Why don't we take those words into meditation?